So it's a bit hard to start to talk about this right now. I really feel the emotions out of this film. It's left quite a mark on me. But anyway, we can, I think we can solve it. First of all, I just want to ask you, this seemed very, very strong to me, the use of color. It kept on changing, signifying the events. Can you tell me how you felt, what you wanted to say by this?
What do I have to own it as a Titelsappos?
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, I have an audio, a sound studio in Los Angeles, so I don't know how to use a mic. We worked a lot on the concept, and each one of the settings is part of the history. So it's, first of all, thank you for being here, the courageous ones who stayed all the way to the end. You have to probably know a little bit more about that part of our history in order to be able to get exactly what we wanted to say. There are several levels of the way we created that reality on screen, and each one of the characters represents part of who we were in that period of time. I'll give you an example. After the end of the war, many of my parents were have been waiting for the Americans to come and save them. And waiting, they ended up in jail, in prisons. So it was the cleaning. And Turica symbolizes that part of the population. Mostly they were the intellectuals, the ones who had strong ties to a Western culture. The cuisine, Kulai represents the free people. Of course, he's gypsy. Gypsy didn't have any borders, no matter who was in power. Gypsy were free, and so on. The color. So we started with a reality that was full of love, of hope. So there was color. There were warm colors in Turica and Emil's apartment, and then the moment it dawns on them that there is a reality that is beyond the reality of their love nest, then the city is basically gray, cold, very cold colors. Actually, mostly lack of colors. But we started with the opening, which is almost black and white. There is a little bit, just a little bit, and this is basically the end. And then the story is how politics are taking the color, are taking life out of the people, out of society.
And they force them to live in a black and white society.
Exactly. Yes.
See them as colors.
So it's a total desaturation and degradation of color, exactly how life was. And we start with a wedding, which is basically full color. And we go little by little, and then as they feel that they're free. When spring comes, color is back, almost there, and then it's taken away again. So the idea for us was, for me, that why I wanted to make this film and bring it from today's perspective is because I feel that this is not part of the past, it's just one step from our history that continues. So I just wanted to say how easy it is to lose the color, how easy it is to lose it, to regain it, and to lose it again, and the cycle is repeating itself because deportations are continuing. There is physical deportation, there is spiritual deportation, there is society hasn't learned anything. History is repeating itself and repeating itself, and that's why the question. So then, what's freedom?
Thank you. And we see throughout the movie that the characters adapt. They adapt to the circumstances they overcome, basically having nothing out in the field. So if we come to the topic of this discussion, which is freedom, what role do you think adaptability and our basic human promise of adaptability plays in freedom, in achieving freedom? How does it help?
I think that in a certain way, I wanted that to be reflected. I think that the key is not to adapt ourselves to whatever is given to us, because that's what we did for 40 years or however the communism lasted in Romania. It's not about only adaptation and survival, because adaptation basically is survival. It's to be able to discover what is there that makes you human, or makes you free, or makes you who you are in that environment. And if that's not, that is only about survival, we are always trying to find ways to escape that. So basically, there is no, I mean, I cannot say there is no, probably there are some that wouldn't leave a jail, but most of the people who are put in jail think about freedom, think about escape, think about the day that they will come, that they will be able to be free. So it's not only about, the adaptation is a way of surviving, it's the animal instinct, we're more than that, so it's about how can we transform that space to become ours.
See, thank you. And so, if you turn this to your perspective, to your personal perspective, we don't live in such circumstances, so in a sense, how they achieved freedom, we do not have that, thankfully. But if you look at your own self, if you had to say a number for your own freedom score, what would your score be? How do you consider yourself free? If you could quantify it.
Are you talking about me personally?
Yeah, you personally, the director of the movie.
On a scale from 1 to 10?
Yeah, that's just the standard version.
Probably 7, I would say. Because the path of self-discovery, I mean, that's the question. I think that the question is, what is freedom for each one of us? There is an individual freedom, and those are my personal opinions. There are no rules, but I think that there is an individual freedom and there is a society freedom that sometimes they come in conflict, and in the best case scenario, they lead. The individual freedom leads to society freedom, to freedom in society, better said. My personal opinion, my personal experience, because I left Romania during communism, so I left Romania in 1982, looking for freedom. The freedom that I thought that society in which I lived didn't give me. What was for me freedom at that particular time? I was 28. So, freedom of expressing myself in my profession, so I was working in films in those days, and it's very important for you to understand what was going on in these days. This is just a sample of it, because you guys you take whatever you call freedom something for granted. To give you an example, when I left in television, there was a long, on Saturdays there was, for example, an entertainment, like kind of a variety type of show that was lasting from 1 o'clock to about 6 o'clock in the evening. And they were showing lots of things. I had just returned from one of the exceptional trips that somebody could have in those days. I had done a trip to South America, going through New York, Germany, and returned with a series, travel series, that was supposed to be a comparison between the ancient civilization, the ancient Inca civilization, and the modern society, modern civilization. So the episodes about Peru came out. The episodes about New York, which was an essay about New York done on the music of Alex Andriesh. I don't know if Andriesh is somebody that you're still from, because he's still singing and he's still doing music. Never saw the light of the TV. Never. They tried to put it 3 times and it never came on TV. And at that time, I had done also an episode about Köln, about Germany, and they put it on without the cathedral. They took the cathedral out because it was a religious monument. At that particular time, you couldn't have the pyramids of Egypt on TV because they're considered to be religious monuments. That was the type of censorship. And I've done 8 features as a cameraman for the studios at Filmbox and Bufte. Nothing that was not going through the censorship could go on screen, and the censorship was very, very rough. So I couldn't go. There were no more magazines or source of information from the West coming. The films that were coming before, at least for private screenings, were not coming anymore. There was such a tremendous censorship that you couldn't work anymore. You couldn't express whatever you needed to express in any shape or form, or get informed. So in that environment, I decided to leave because I thought that, well, I didn't have the freedom, call it simply the freedom of expression. And I went to a country, to a place, America. You have all the freedoms, right? We both saw the movies and everything, freedom. If you didn't have money, you didn't have any freedom. Everywhere there was, and in order to get money and to be able to, you had to do or say or think like the people who were paying you. So the conclusion for me very, very quickly was that society doesn't give you whatever I dreamed to be freedom. Society puts always a price on the freedom that you can have. So then the question is, what is freedom for you individually? And what do you do with that in order to be able to transform freedom in society? And that's, for me, is the permanent crisis that we have as member of whatever societies we live in. And that's what attracted me to the script in the first place, because the reality was that when these people were free to go back to whatever lives they might have had before, many of them didn't want to return. And I couldn't understand that. And the answer was that because there, outside the system, was the first time when we felt free. So then the question is, okay, what is freedom then? How do you experience freedom? And it's something that comes from outside, or it's something that comes from inside. I talked to a political prisoner who spent 20 years in jail. And he wrote books in his mind. he lived in jail like he was in a creative camp. And he found that freedom within him. Nobody could steal his ideas, nobody could steal whatever he had inside. And for him, that was freedom. So freedom, to me, at the end of the story, became a very individual, a very personal experience. And the same way, the sages are telling you, go look for your own God, because each one of us has a God. Freedom, I think, is the same thing. It's you have to go and look for your own freedom and figure out what you do with that.
So it's always very, very personal what defines freedom for some. And since we're running really low on time, I just want to do a little bit of play with you. I'm going to ask you very short questions. I need you to answer in maximum 1 minute to them, okay? Can we do that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, first of all, what are you most proud about when it comes to this movie? What is your biggest achievement about it?
That you are here watching it. It's like, I just relived the moment. So when we had the screening before the premiere of the movie, the avant premiere of the movie here in this room, and it was full of young people. And then when we screened the movie at TIFF, in front of a sellout crowd of which most of them were young, not younger than me, but young. That's the best thing that can happen, because you don't know all this, and the most important thing is that you can grasp it, that you can understand where you're coming from, that you can understand your parents, that you can understand what's in front of you, because these guys, like Ukrainians, or like so many, like look what's happening in Syria, or wherever in the world, freedom, whatever you think that is freedom, whatever you think the way of life that you have right now is, you can lose it in 1 second. In 1 second. So don't take it for granted.
What are some of the most interesting behind-the-scenes moments that you think that the audience would like to know or hear about?
Well, the interesting thing is that given the circumstances that we shot the film, and we shot it on, and by the way, the film producer, Krina, are you still here? Krina Krishan is here, and I want to salute her. She's director of film movie, and also a great participant in what is all the sets, scenografia, so all the look of the movie. She worked on that. But going back, so we shot on for season by season. And given the whole thing, it was like more like a workshop. So these actors had their scenes for next day placed by me at midnight under their doors. So when they woke up in the morning, they didn't know what to expect next day. Exactly like the characters. So basically, they confronted the reality of what they were about to shoot right then, there. And there is no special effects in the winter, there is no special effects in the summer. So everything that, in a certain way, I forced them into similar situations like the characters they were playing, forcing them also to create based on that. So it was kind of a workshop where we were working together. I knew exactly what, I knew who they were. But myself, I was writing the scenes the night before, so I didn't know. I was waiting to see what happened in that day in order to be able to create the next day.
Okay. Now I have 3 questions. I need you to answer just 1 word, okay?
Yeah, 1 word, okay.
So if Romania in general were a genre of film, what genre would it be?
This one? This one?
No, if Romania,
yeah.
Country, were a genre of film.
Oh, comedy, definitely.
That's it. What is one filmmaking rule that you always love to break, if there's any?
The axis. the cliché.
Okay. And if there was a film made about your life, who would you want to direct it and why? Please tell me
God.
so that. Sorry?
God.
And why?
Because he's already doing it. So
That's a good answer, thank you. And I want to open up the room to the audience as well, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask, please. I'm sure we can give you a microphone as well. Yeah, there's a... No? We cannot. We can't give you a microphone. Okay. You have to shout a bit. If there are no questions, I have more, so don't worry. Yeah, there's a question.
Okay. So recently we've gone through the most chaotic elections ever since
Oh, no.
the communist era. So do you think there are any, ideas that we could take from this movie? Because it had a pretty strong political message, and it got me thinking about the anxiety that I think that most of us felt in these recent weeks. So if you have any idea about that, about our present.
first of all, I think that we are... The American way of life that the Western world tries to copy got to the point where now we're copying it in politics also. So I think that the worst thing that can happen, and it's happening all over the place, is that more and more we're dividing ourselves in between us and them without any kind of ways of communication. Democracy means that you play by the rule of the majority and you respect that, and you respect the majority and the majority respects the minority, and there is a dialogue, and it's like in any sports, there is one winner and one loser, and then they shake hands and they respect each other. That disappeared completely. It's disappearing almost everywhere in the political landscape. So the only thing that you guys can do in a place where there are no options, first of all, as a young generation, you have to create your own options. And the most important thing, I think, in order to be able to do that is, first of all, to listen to your heart. There is, beyond TikTok and any kind of other sources of information that you might have, and it's very important to have a variety of sources of information in order to have an opinion. Listen to your hearts. In each one of us, there is a truth, but you have to have enough silence in your life in order to be able to listen to it, to hear it, to understand it, and follow it. The future is in your hands, not in the hands of the guys who are in the politics right now. Create options, but in order to be able to create options, you have to know very well who you are, what you want, and what you want for your future. It's a lot to ask at 20-something that you are when you are much more preoccupied by who you date and what you dress, but you are in a collegium here that prepares you for the future. And so you're in a certain way, there are many more expectations from you than from anybody else. So you have some responsibilities, and you have to listen to what your heart says. But feed your mind with knowledge, and make sure that you pick up the knowledge from different sources that can help you create your own point of view. Without a point of view, you are nothing else than slaves. So you follow, but you have to become leaders. In order to become leaders, you need to have a variety of point of views to create your own. Look for your God, look for what freedom means to you, and do whatever you need to do in order to make that happen. You're a community here already, so build upon that, build upon that. In '89, people like you went on the streets and try to create or a new society. This is not what they had in mind. Definitely not. So, go after your dreams. Define your dreams and go after them. Don't let anybody steal them from you. That's the only thing that I can tell you.
Thank you for the question. Do we have more? Yes, we do.
When you said you wrote the lines the days prior to filming, what do you mean by that? You mean you had an idea and you changed it, or you actually wrote it on your own?
No, so basically, I got into this project 2 weeks before it was supposed to start shooting. And I didn't like the script. So I changed everything. I threw it out and I started rebuilding the story based on my point of view. It was not mine before. And I wanted to do a movie about freedom. It was a movie about the deportation. And so I changed everything. I changed the actors, I changed the cast, I changed the biography of the characters, I changed everything. But I had only 2 weeks to start shooting. I knew that my chance was that we were shooting by seasons. So I had 11 days of shoot in front of me in 2 weeks, and then I had a break until we got into winter and so forth. So I wrote the biography of the characters. I knew what I want to say, so I wrote the biography of the characters, and I started writing the scenes for the first day of shoot. That was very good. The first day of shoot was the train, the scene that everything that's related to the train, and the arrival in the fields. In the shooting of the kid, everything that was everything that was related to the train and the arrival in the field. So I wrote those scenes, but I knew very well my characters. And from that point on, I started to write the scenes that I had to shoot the next day. I didn't have the time to write the script. But knowing very well who my characters were, I was writing, after the shoot was over, I was writing the scenes for next day. It was forced on me, basically, because of that. And so, at night, when I was finishing, 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, I was putting the scenes so that I can find them next day. And then I realized the effect and how good it was. And then the next shoot, I had a couple of months until we started shooting in winter, something like that. So then I wrote the winter entirely. But I kept on doing the same thing. I was putting the scenes at night because I saw how good it was worth giving them the next day in the morning, because I saw the effect on them. So it was working perfectly. We were talking about that. And so it became this kind of a workshop where we were creating together the scene based on what they encountered. So the winter that you see was only, there was a shoot in Ryshnov with the boar, that we went there for a couple of days and the snow is there, but in the Baragan, the winter, the big winter with the storm, was 1 day. We had, in April, we had 1 day that it snowed, and and next day everything was melting, so we had to add snow in CGI, and afterwards in post-production, but that was the winter, and they went through that like hell.
Thank you. We have time for one more last question.
Ce mesaj ai pentru tinerii din ziua de astăzi care văd acest film? Că am văzut, eu aici conștientizez că libertatea are și simbolurile ei proprii. Apropo de personaje, că fiecare persoană...
Oh, da. Fiecare personaj simbolizează ceva, bineînțeles. Generația părinților mei este generația, cel puțin părinților mei, este Emil. Taică-meu a luptat războiul sunt ok în românește pentru toată lumea? Taică-meu a luptat războiul în Armata Roșie, voluntar în Armata Roșie, s-a întors plin de speranță într-un viitor luminos și a dat seama de realitate undeva pe la mijlocul anilor 50. și într-un fel sau altul a încercat să mă inspire și pe mine să stau deoparte. Și eu am urmat același destin al tatălui meu și așa mai departe. Bunicul a fost în ilegalitate, comunist în ilegalitate și și-a dat și el seama și a încercat să-l învețe pe taică-meu a încercat să mă învețe pe mine și fiecare am învățat pe pielea noastră. Preotul este preotul cel care aduce, care începe să se îndoiască de propria lui credință, dar își dea seama că este unitatea de care are nevoie comunitatea. Nu? Ar trebui să fie religia, ar trebui să fie cea care unește comunitatea, care o aduce. Din păcate, religia este cea care de foarte multe ori ne dezbină. Mama, Nana, este înțelepciunea de la țară, înțelepciunea pământului, cea de totdeauna. Iar unguroaica și cu neamțul sunt cu caracteristicile lor. Unguroaica este durerea pe care o aduce pierderea și pe care o duce cu ea o perioadă îndelungată, după care trebuie să se integreze într-un fel sau altul în societate. Neamțul e cel care aduce construcția, care aduce ordinea, care aduce disciplina și care, într-un fel sau altul, până la urmă, se unește cu cealaltă minoritate, nu? Și care înțeleg că trebuie să aibă o continuitate pe pământul acela. Deci fiecare personaj trebuie. De aia am adus pe toți în grupul. Aveam o limită, nu puteam să aduc mai mult de 9 personaje în grupul ăsta. Și am încercat să creez o imagine a societății din acel moment.
Thank you for the questions.
Dar mesajul pentru voi este practic ce am spus și ei, gândiți-vă că trăiți într-o țară care are o istorie îndelungată, care este pusă la mijloc de drumuri, la intersecția multor drumuri, a fost și continuă să fie undeva între vest și est și trebuie totdeauna să-și găsească drumul ei. Gândiți-vă totdeauna la ce vreți voi, nu ce vreți voi, că dacă asta este cum reușești să faci saltul de la ce vrei material la ce vrei spiritual, la ce vrei patriotic, la ce vrei pentru țara ta, nu pentru voi. Nu există. Eu cred că până la urmă aveam o conversație cu altcineva mai devreme, e ceea ce pot să continui în românește pentru toată lumea, e bine? Ceea ce unește toate religiile, care într-un fel sau altul sunt rezultatul unei înțelepciuni care vine de foarte de mult, este regula aia, iubește-ți aproapele ca pe tine însuți. A dispărut complet, pentru că toată lumea se iubește pe ea însăși. Dumnezeul nostru, în momentul de față, în general, în societate, este banul sau telefonul. Încercați și voi să faceți ceva, să vă întoarceți la acea iubire aproapelui. E singura șansă, cred, pe care o avem ca să putem să aducem, în general, societatea înapoi la umanitate.
Thank you all for coming. I think we're at the end of our time, sadly. It's very short, but thank you for coming. I hope you enjoy the movie, and I hope it gives you a different perspective of freedom, and makes you think of your own freedom. And before I let you go, I just want to recommend you that we have 2 more events coming up tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow, you can listen to The Power of the Mind Against Oppression, and the day after tomorrow, it is Totalitarianism, Art and Law. So, please visit us again. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.